Hey, what is up everyone? Danny and Alex. In today's video, let's look at boxing for street self-defense. So basically using your basic boxing techniques, how to defend yourself against punches, grabs, shoves. So check it out. All right, so we're gonna begin with the boxing stance. So you should know this already. So of course, you wanna have good balance. So if you're on the street to defend yourself, this is gonna be the same boxing stance you're gonna be using in the ring, right? So we need to know how to move, right? You'll see in a second why this is super important. So basic review is if you're gonna be moving forward, you're always gonna be stepping with the lead foot. So you wanna be in good balance and stepping forward. If you're gonna be moving backwards, that's gonna be your step. You're gonna be moving to the side, always with that same side foot, and towards your left as well, right? If we practice this, we're gonna be going in all four directions. And this is good to practice at all times when you're shadow boxing, whether you're preparing for the ring, for sport, or to defend yourself, right? The stance doesn't change, because if you don't have good balance, you're gonna be rocked down to the ground, okay? Now you wanna be able to move sidestepping on angles as well, so turning to the side. So for example, stepping here, again, stepping here, stepping to the side, and even shuffling yourself a little bit to the left or to the right. So if you want to move a little bit to the left or to the right, or in a circle motion as well, because you want to be able to move yourself around an opponent who's trying to attack you. All right, now let's talk about some basic self-defense techniques. Before we begin, I want to talk about the range, all right? So if you understand distance, you're going to be preventing the opponent to hit you in the face, all right? So distance is probably your best defense, all right? If you're not in the way of an attacker's grabs or punches, you're never in danger. So that's the first thing you want to understand, all right? So the first thing using the footwork thing is, as an example, if I'm in front of Alex and I was to shove him, because this is a very common aggression, right? Maybe a bully or an attacker is gonna come here. You'll see that a lot, and someone's just gonna shove you as such, right? They're gonna try to push you. They get physical in that matter, right? So a lot of times when you get shoved, we go back to that boxing stance, all right? So look at here. Sometimes maybe Alex wasn't expecting it. He's in a neutral base and he's talking with me. And then as the assailant, I just give him a shove. He wants to get into a boxing stance right away so he doesn't get rocked back and even fall to the ground. So once again, look, just from here, this is boxing stance, all right? Now, you also want to have your guard up because you never know when a punch is coming. So as an example, if I pushed him here, now his hands are up and now he's ready to defend himself, dodge, block, whatever it is, if the aggressor starts to punch him or tries to punch him in the face, okay? So as a drill, sometimes we might even practice stuff here. We shove, he's gonna get into his boxing stance, and look, we just talked about range and distance. So if I was gonna throw a punch, if he just uses his boxing footwork, boom, he's already out of range. You see that? Super simple stuff. So if you don't understand footwork, you never practice the basics, you're gonna get a hard time getting out of maybe a swing or a haymaker punch. So look, get into your boxing stance. Now get into a hands up position. And look, if I threw a punch, look, he's not even gonna get caught because he's out of range just using his footwork. And that's super important. Now the same thing goes if I were to maybe like throw a front kick to his legs or to his stomach, he just moves to the side, right? He just moves out of the range of my kick, right? Once again, look, just from here, just moves out, all right? And we have to understand one thing. On the street, most attackers are not gonna be martial artists, all right? Hopefully not. So most people are gonna kick ugly and are also gonna punch ugly, like haymaker style, all right? So we wanna prepare against that kind of stuff. Now we're gonna look at how we can defend against grabs. So as an example, maybe one grab could simply be, maybe he grabs you by the shirt like this, right? So he grabs you like this, right? So now what he's gonna bring his elbow over my arms, he's gonna turn to the side and shove the arm down, see, boom. And look, he's in a perfect position to rotate back into a cross. Boom, right from here. That's one example of a self-defense situation using your boxing technique. So if I were to grab his shirt like this, and this is very common, right? The shove is one of them, and the shirt grab is another one, right? People grab your shirt and they start to shake you. So from here, look, he just turns to the side, boom. That defends himself against any strike because now it chops the arms down from the grab and it puts him in a perfect position, look, to turn his hips right into a strong punch. All right, so if you were to defend yourself on the street and you had no choice to attack the attacker with your strikes, I would always recommend using your strongest punch. So for example, your cross or your hook or even your uppercut. You don't want to be jabbing yourself out of a street fight, okay? So one more time, look, grabbing from here, or it could also be a throat grab from here. He turns, boom, and look, bam. And that's a great self-defense technique we can use using our boxing. This is the cross. Now, another thing we can also do from here. Sometimes maybe somebody will grab you by the neck as such. You know, they try to grab you here to pull you down. So now what he's going to do, look, just bob and weave into his stance, and that puts him in position to throw a strike once again. See, if it's on the opposite side, maybe I grabbed him here. And look, he just weaves underneath. That's a boxing technique. And look, that puts him in position to throw some punches as well. All right, and we're talking about throwing punches, but you don't need to throw punches. If you want to just escape and walk away, run away, that's your choice. We're just, for demo purposes, showing you how to use your boxing techniques, okay? Now, maybe I'm trying to kick him to the stomach or to the knee. Now I could use his inside parry. You know, he just uses the lead elbow and parries the kick to the side as such. And look, that puts him on an angle where he can throw a punch or escape, right? So one more time, look, as I throw the front kick here, boom, he pushes this down, and that puts him in a position to attack right back, okay? Many situations we can use the self-defense techniques using our boxing weapons to defend. All right, so another thing we want to be using is sometimes just using a stance will also defend against a grab. So maybe I was grabbing his shoulder as such, or maybe just pointing at him. A lot of times people just pointing like this, you know. Whatever it is, look, if he gets right into a stance, his guard, look, that shoves this arm out, but at the same token, puts him in position for his jab and then for his cross, for example, right? So right from here, look, if I grabbed him here like this, look, it deflects it into position, and then right here, he's ready for his strongest punch, which is his cross. Right? That's another example of defending yourself using your boxing, right? Things are really simple. If you try to overcomplicate things, that's not going to work on the street. So the basic techniques we use on an everyday basis when we work out is the stuff that's going to come out instinctively, all right? So maybe another thing here is a haymaker punch. So look, we always practice how we roll underneath punches. So this is a perfect example of evading ourselves. Maybe you can't step away, can't move away from the punches. Maybe you're against a wall or something. So look, if the haymaker comes here, he wants to roll underneath the armpit, and now he's out of range for the danger of the punch. So look, right from here, boom. And that's how he uses his footwork, his head movement to defend himself against attacking. Now, of course, I always recommend when you train on a heavy bag, on focus mitts, to have your hands wrapped as well as a pair of boxing gloves on top. But sometimes we do practice bare knuckle. All right, the sport of bare knuckle boxing is actually becoming very popular, as a matter of fact. But it's also important to strengthen your hands. Now, you got to be careful. So just a word of caution. If it's your first time training, don't just hit the focus mitts or the heavy bag without hand wraps or boxing gloves, right? You're going to injure your hands or break your fingers, maybe even sprain your wrist. I don't recommend that. Only for people who've been training for a little while, who have strengthened the bones in their hands, strengthened the ligaments in their wrists, you know, so that way there you have a cooperative training partner holding the mitts, knows what they're doing. But once in a while, it's good because it hardens your knuckles. We do this on Makiwara boards. We also do this once in a while for MMA training with smaller gloves. But today I'm going to show you guys the proper application quickly of your punches on the mitts. So if you're going to be throwing your jab without any boxing glove on, you want to always ensure that two first knuckles are always connecting onto the target. You want to be hitting any punches with the bottom of your hand, with the fingers, or having your thumb extended, right? A lot of people have their thumb extended. So when they strike, basically the thumb is gonna hit first and they're gonna break their thumb, all right? So this is a good way to practice the proper application of how you should be punching at all times, all right? Let's start with the jab very quickly. Just do a few, Alex. That's your jab. So notice how he rotates the punch into the pad, boom. And two first knuckles, boom, always connecting. So I can feel the two first knuckles. Now, if you were to do it wrong in slow motion, look, it could look like this where he's just going in a vertical manner, and now the small finger, the small knuckle will hit the target. Sometimes the bottom of his fist or the bottom of the fingers or the bottom of your palm, the fingers are gonna hit as such, or even the thumb as I mentioned, all right? So those things you wanna prevent. So always rotate your fist into the punch. That's your jab. And that way there, that will protect you as much as possible if you were to hit without hand wraps, tape, gauze, or even a boxing glove. Now, of course, we have our cross. So the right hand is the most powerful punch you have, so right here. And that's the most common punch, right? We're talking about street self-defense. So for example, boxing is a great art, or martial art, if you will, because that's one of the first things you're gonna be using. Everyone instinctively will attack you using their punches, all right? Either grabs, tackles, or punches. Very rarely someone's gonna come in as a martial arts expert and throw a 360 flying high kick to you on the street. It's gonna be haymakers, it's gonna be grabs, and instinctively you're gonna be doing the same thing. You're gonna be defending yourself or reacting with your hands more than likely, all right? So hands or boxing is probably the most efficient weapon as well, all right? Although we do jiu-jitsu in our case to defend ourselves, if we need to use strikes, that's the first instinct we're gonna be using, all right? Especially on the street, you don't wanna be taking chances with high kicks and whatnot. Using your hands or boxing weapons will always keep your feet grounded onto the ground and you'll always stay in balance, all right? So that's why it's important to practice these boxing techniques. So right here, that's your cross. Now we also have the right uppercut. For example, now in the uppercut, we always want to make sure that we rotate the knuckles towards us slightly, because you'll notice every time if you practice on the focus mitts that this one here, you'll hit your fingers and you'll hurt yourself. So you always want to practice with your knuckles and rotating everything. See, you rotate your palm at the last second where you just flick your wrist and that rotates the knuckles onto the target right here. You also have your left hook. So of course here, you want to rotate in the opposite direction. So on your left hook, it's very important to have a proper placement on this one as well. Just like the uppercut, tilt so that way you don't break your hand or your fingers, okay? And then you also have your overhand punch, for example, here. That overhand punch is a strong punch. Now the overhand punch is one of those punches, it's the easiest to throw because it's almost like a haymaker. It doesn't require a lot of technique, but it also becomes one of the most complicated one. So sometimes when I teach students, I'll tell them the overhand punch is one of your most dangerous weapons to receive if you don't block it or dodge it, right? So the overhand punch has a lot of power behind it. It's almost like a big haymaker punch, a lot of swing behind it, but also on the same token, it's also one of the easiest ones to defend because it comes in a curved line, all right? So for example, here, it goes looping all the way down. So if I were to throw this punch to Alex, it's very easy for him to defend because now he sees it coming. He can block, he can step away because it's a curved line, or he can duck. Right? You can just roll underneath because it's a curve, all right? It's not as fast as a straight punch, for example, okay? So, but the overhand punch is a good punch to practice too, because now it really forces you to place your knuckles onto the target. Now, I don't recommend practicing body shots. Don't waste your time with that. If I were to throw only one punch to defend myself on the street, I'm gonna be aiming for the opponent's jaw, right? Right on the button to knock them out. But the thing is, you wanna be practicing just for recreational purposes on the focus mitts, using only your hands once in a while. Be careful, don't go full out, all power, just to harden your knuckles a little bit, and that's good practice. All right, guys, so there you have it. Boxing for self-defense. Hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Leave us a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and we'll catch you
in the next video.
Take care.